Howdy, I'm the Chinese Zodiac Killer, arrested by the FBI Terrorist Task Force in 2022 and labeled a cannibal killer. Why all this happened is a very long and complicated story full of details, many of which you can find in my past videos, so check them out. One thing that the so-called Federal Justice Department claimed in the press release to the public was how I mailed letters in which I threatened to kill a school bus driver. However, spoiler alert, these letters were a monthly manuscript I mailed out as a horror and occult author and activist, with each manuscript being a preview of a chapter of the next books in my series entitled The Procession of the Equinox. Also, by the way, despite that the FBI knew this, the feds instead labeled me as the character in my latest horror short story, The Chinese Zodiac Killer, and then released me to a very alarmed and confused local public with no actual backstory or context as explanation. In short, the true story appears to have been covered up. This was an unethical move, not just towards me, but to local society, much of which was terrified by my release as someone they claimed was claiming to be a cannibal killer. So perhaps now you can see why it makes sense that even though it was claimed that I claimed I was a cannibal killer and threatening to kill a school bus driver, why I was released so quickly. Because I'm not a cannibal killer. Disappointing, folks, I'm sure. That being said, in regard to their claim that I threatened to kill a school bus driver, a review of my actual original manuscript and short story that I mailed out will show that I never actually wrote anything that said I would kill a school bus driver. In fact, the feds edited out my actual wording and replaced it with the word kill. In actuality, I was a school bus driver and I made a comment about wiping my career out to become a successful author and get my international touring metal band Penetration back into circulation. The federal argument was that they had the legal right to interpret writing or speech however they wish. This brings us to a deeper question. If what we say or write has no legal standing in federal court, and the government can decide what we say or write means in court, even if it's not our own interpretation, wording, or intent, what power then does the First Amendment, freedom of speech, really have? It doesn't. Not over government authority. Likewise, if they edited out my original wording and replaced it with the word kill, wouldn't you call that lying and libel on the part of the federal government? And that being said, why would I plead guilty to saying I threatened to kill a school bus driver when that word isn't in my original manuscript and this wasn't a reference to killing anyone at all? Stay tuned to find out about more government bullshit. Like, share, and subscribe, and don't touch that dial.